Howdy-ho, neighborinos. It's time for another fun-filled edition to Cyber Force Surveillance 101 with your ruggedly handsome cybersecurity pal. This week, I want to delve a little bit into something I haven't talked about for a while, email. In my notes below, you'll see a link to my video about it, which is actually the first lesson I ever recorded. I've emphasized before how important keeping your email account safe is, since it's one of the main avenues of approach the bad guys will use to try to get into your stuff. I recently heard a report about ransomware. These researchers examined the ransomware attacks out there, and they came to some conclusions about how the bad guys got in the first place. In 90% of ransomware attacks, the bad guys got in through email. But today, I'm going to talk about what do you do if you figure out that the bad guys have already gotten into your email account. What do you do then? The springboard for this is a great article I recently came across from McAfee, who just happens to be the anti-malware service we use. They have an article helpfully titled, "My email has been hacked. What should I do next?" It's short and mostly non-techy and a pretty easy read. Obviously, I've got a link to it in the notes below, but I am going to quickly go through it and expand and add some commentary to it. They start out with giving some bad signs that your email account has been compromised. First, a bad sign is that your contacts are receiving messages not sent by you. Your friends and family start getting emails which actually come from your account with a weird link which says, "Hey, check this out," and you didn't send the emails. Now, keep in mind that it's incredibly easy for a bad guy to fake an email address. Just because you get an email which supposedly came from joeschmo@yahoo.com, that doesn't necessarily mean that it actually came from the address of joeschmo@yahoo.com. I repeat, email addresses can be easily faked. But it's also entirely possible that those emails that your friends are getting are actually coming from your email address. If so, then that means that the bad guys have somehow gotten a hold of the password to your email account. That's what I mean when I say your email account has been compromised. This would mean that the bad guys can log in as you and do whatever they want to do on your email account. The second sign, according to the article, that your email account has been compromised is if your email password stops working. Okay, first, if you're actually typing a password in, you probably shouldn't unless the website, for some goofy reason, forces you to do so. The much easier way is to copy your password from your password manager. Notes below if you're not familiar with that. Copy that from your password manager into the password field. And of course, that's assuming that your password manager hasn't just filled in your password for you. If for some reason it's not taking the password from your password manager, you can copy and paste the password into a notepad just to make sure that it hasn't somehow gotten messed up. Once you are positive that you're copying and pasting the password correctly into the password field and it's still not taking it, you have a problem on your hands. I'll get into what you do in just a minute, but just so you know, this is a pretty bad sign that the bad guys have already gotten into your email account and changed your password. A third bad sign that the article talks about is sudden and unexplained erratic and sluggish behavior on your computer. Now, to be more precise, this is a sign that your computer has been compromised, not so much your email account. Again, we'll get into what to do next in just a moment. And then fourth and final bad sign from the article is that you are getting a ransomware note. This could come from an email, but more likely with real ransomware, you'll see a screen pop up telling you that the bad guys have taken over your computer and what their demands are. Again, this is a sign that your computer is compromised, not so much your email account. Okay, so let's get to the steps to perform. If you're seeing signs that your computer is compromised, the first thing to do, if at all possible, is for you to run your anti-malware software. Do a deep scan on your machine. And once that's done, and assuming it's cleaned it out, then run the second anti-malware program on your machine. What am I talking about? See the notes below if you're not familiar with my counsel on this. If you have ransomware and you've lost control of your computer, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but the next step is to make sure you disconnect the machine from the network and take it to an IT or computer professional. And probably what they'll end up doing is wiping the machine and starting over. And hopefully you've been backing up your important stuff. But what if it just seems to be your email? Well, if you can, I still recommend that you do a full scan on your system, just like I mentioned a minute ago, because the bad guys didn't get your email password from Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. It's quite possible that they got it by installing some malware on your computer, which gave them the password. Next, if you can, immediately log into your email account and change your password. If your password is not working, then contact the people who run your email account and notify them. Hopefully, you can convince them that you are who you say you are and they can get your account restored to you. Your next step is to get into your account and look at your sent folder. From there, you can see all the emails that the bad guys sent out on your behalf. Get all of the contacts that you can and notify these people that you've been hacked and not to click on any links they received in any recent emails from you. And while you're there, go into the rules on your email account and check for any new rules on forwarding emails that the bad guys might have set up. And finally, go back into your account and enable 2FA on that account and change any security questions on it. Now, I'm not here to be mean. The last thing I want to do is beat a dead horse, but honesty compels me to point out that if you follow the advice I've given in previous videos, your odds of going through all this stuff I just mentioned are actually pretty low. So now I'm going to transition away from what to do if your email or computer get compromised to reemphasize how to avoid that situation in the first place. I mean, I'd rather keep the bad guys out than let them in and have to deal with the headache of getting rid of them, right? I actually found it kind of funny that the article tells you almost as a last step to change that password on all your other accounts you happen to use it on. As soon as I read that before, you know what my response was, right? Every password you use must be unique for that account, gibberish, and at least 12 characters long. The longer the better. If you're using a password manager, which allows you to do that easily, then that's one big hurdle you've placed in front of the bad guys. And the other thing they mention in the article is to enable 2FA. Guys, there is no good reason not to use 2FA on any email account you use. Hopefully you picked up from our little talk just now about how devastating it can be if the bad guys compromise your email account. I know from personal experience that Google has 2FA offered for its accounts. All of the major email providers offer it. If you're not sure about your email, you can go to twofactorauth.org and check the provider. Link in the notes. If for some reason they don't offer 2FA, well, I think you really need to reconsider using their service. Look, I'm not trying to scare you. Well, maybe a little. There are things in this world you should be scared of. I'm going to do stuff like point out that if the bad guys get a hold of your email account, one of the first things they might do is try to log into things like Facebook or chase.com or whatever, and then click on that little link that says, forgot my password, and then use your email to get into whatever they can. And if my scaring you a little bit motivates you into securing yourself a little better, I think I can live with that. Anyway, that's it for this week. If you want to be notified when I submit a new video, be sure to click the subscribe button below. Thanks so much for watching, and God bless.